Now, moving on to this bit with regard to the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, and funnily enough, since the sort of terrorist attack, of course, on October 2nd, in the mainstream media, whenever Labour MPs were talking, they almost refused, or at least avoided, saying the word Islam when it came to sort of terrorism. However, the Home Secretary has now been forced to state this, and this is the first time you'll be hearing this, as she says that, of course, Islam is the number one cause of terrorism within the United Kingdom. Let's have a watch of this.
This government and I myself as the Home Secretary have a very clear-eyed view of where the threats that face this country are coming from. It is true that within our domestic extremism landscape, the largest cohort of work that keeps our security services and counter-terror policing busy is related to Islamist extremism. We will not shy away from confronting those issues and dealing with them in the appropriate way. And I guess what's happened in Manchester on the 2nd of October asks a bigger question of all of us. This threat is something that we have been living with for some time, and we have not yet defeated it. And I commit myself and the government to doing everything in our power to stand up to this particular threat without fear or favour, to destroy it for good. And I would note for this House that the first people that Islamists often suppress, hurt and damage are their fellow Muslims as well. It is in everyone's interests to fight Islamist extremism wherever it is found. There is a wider, more complex domestic extremism picture as well, as the Shadow Secretary of State noted, in relation to extreme right-wing terrorism and an emerging threat of those who don't have a particularly fixed ideology but are fixated on violence. And it is important that all of our response is measured, follows where the risks are coming from, and we are always asking ourselves what action will be ultimately effective in dealing with those threats.
So yeah, they admitted it. Of course, they had to mention sort of right-wing terrorism as well. But what does that constitute towards? Do you know what I mean? Following this, Lee Anderson asked her about the whole anti-Semitic chants. Of course, we covered with regard to Sadiq Khan, where he said about from the river to the sea. He said that it wasn't anti-Semitic. And then now, of course, Shabana Mahmood refused to agree that the chant from the river to the sea is anti-Semitic.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Whilst the Prime Minister is swanning around Egypt, shamelessly trying to claim credit for the Gaza-Israel peace deal, we have the Mayor of London stating that the chant from the rivers to the sea is not anti-Semitic. I think it is anti-Semitic. Does the Home Secretary agree with me or the Mayor of London?
Home Secretary.
I really don't think the honourable member should have lowered the tone in that way. These are very serious matters, and we should all be united in this House in supporting the peace process in the Middle East, which undoubtedly has made progress in the last few days because of the actions of the American president and other partners in the region. One of the reasons why I'm reviewing the wider legislation in this area, including the thresholds for what constitutes a hate crime, is precisely because we have many contested phrases which currently, based on context, fall foul of being prosecuted. And I want to make sure that we have the most robust legal mechanisms, that hate speech and hate crimes are always prosecuted in our country.
So yeah, she refused to say that that is anti-Semitic, but we know that she's been a part of these sort of pro-Palestine protests before. You know, we've seen images emerge. However, as you can see here, she did state that pro-Palestine protesters don't want peace in the Middle East in her own words. She previously branded some pro-Palestine protesters as fundamentally un-British in nature, after one said they don't give an F about the Jewish community right now. Ms. Mahmood confirmed that the government was considering new powers to ban demonstrations outright. She told the Commons protests have continued both before the peace agreement and after the peace agreement in the Middle East. I think we can conclude that not all of these protesting truly want to see peace in the Middle East, but that is for them to answer to what their motivations really are. We are very clear that whilst the right to protest is a fundamental freedom in our country, enjoyed by people of all backgrounds and often the cause of grave offence to others, people live in this country, it does have to be balanced against the right for all of the people to be able to live in safely. Oh, so at least she admits it. I mean, she was a part of these protests before. You know, there's loads of images circulating online of her actually being a part of these protests. So, yeah, it's interesting, but certainly, hopefully, they go down the sort of route. At least they're actually acknowledging, I suppose, or at least forced to acknowledge what the main threat of terrorism is. As of course, this is a statistic from the MI6 or MI5 is that it's 80%. 80%, of course, terrorism offences constitute from an Islamic extremist ideology. So they've been forced to mention the word. And of course, again, at least they're trying to understand, or at least understanding that these pro-Palestine protesters don't actually want peace. Otherwise, they'd be celebrating. Otherwise, they'd be congratulating Donald Trump. But again, they don't, because it's their personality and it's far bigger their motivation of what they're actually trying to achieve and why they are protesting. Guys, do let me know your thoughts on both subjects that we discussed in today's video. As always, do hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for more, and I'll see you all next time. Take care. Peace.